Each year, over 1 million Americans from all walks of life learn that they have cancer. At first, many react to the diagnosis with fear.
My first reaction when I heard on the telephone that I had cancer was, oh my God, I have cancer? I'm gonna die a terrible death.
No one had ever talked about cancer because it was something that was a frightening word in our community.
When I first heard of cancer years ago, it meant that you had a terminal situation.
Having gone through what I've gone through and having studied and read quite a bit, not only about breast cancer, but other types, I realize that cancer isn't a death sentence, but more like an obstacle in your life.
More than 10 million Americans are living with cancer, more than ever before. It can be a difficult battle, but many are winning thanks to significant advances in medical research.
Researchers are continuing to make important discoveries that result in new advances in treatment, surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, immunotherapy, and the development of new drugs. One way patients get access to promising new therapies is by participating in clinical trials, also known as cancer research studies.
When your doctor recommends that you participate in a clinical trial, you are being offered the ability to go one step further than the standard treatment, to do a little bit more. And even though it's not proven, it may benefit you.
For me, participating in the trial was about receiving treatment, but with a lot of special attention.
These and many other individuals were touched by cancer. Some were empowered to benefit from new treatment options. All were empowered to help others. Rural and urban, sick and healthy, young and old, and everyone in between. Empowerment, access, and choices. That's what clinical trials and the people who make them happen are all about. But clinical trials may not be the best choice for everyone.
I chose not to participate in a clinical trial because I was too scared to try something experimental.
We looked at the distance and the fact we need to travel to treatment visits for weeks at a time. It seemed like a lot to put my family through when I could just go to the cancer center near my house. And, you know, it was a bit scary to think about trying a new treatment, so it was a tough decision.
The decision to participate in a clinical trial should be made with your family and doctors to weigh the possible benefits with risks or drawbacks. Ultimately, it's your personal decision whether or not to participate in a clinical trial.
Clinical trials test promising new therapies with people in various stages of cancer, from first diagnosis to advanced disease. Patients may learn about clinical trials from their doctor or on their own, through libraries, information lines, and the internet.
A clinical trial is a test to see if a drug or treatment will be effective in treating human disease. 100% of the people who take a medicine or treatment for a disease are standing on the shoulders of someone who participated in a clinical trial.
Clinical trials are an essential part of proving that any new medicine or treatment works for the group it's intended to help. Many of today's accepted uses of medicines came through clinical trials. In the 1970s, for instance, doctors and nurses began to think that aspirin might save the lives of people who came to the hospital having a heart attack. Because thousands of patients agreed to participate in the clinical trial of aspirin more than 30 years ago, doctors today routinely give aspirin to hundreds of thousands of patients every year.
A cancer clinical trial is one of the final stages in the careful process of cancer research that begins in the laboratory. When doctors first discover a promising approach, it's often tested on animals. But treatments that work well on animals don't always work well on people, so it's important to study them in cancer patients to find out whether they're safe and effective for people. For the patient's safety, new treatments are tested in 4 phases. Each phase is designed to answer different research questions. A phase 1 trial is done with a small number of people. Here we try to find a safe dosage, decide exactly how and when the new medicine should be given, and observe how the new treatment affects the body. Phase 2 trials determine the effect of the treatment on specific types of cancer. If a treatment shows potential benefits, it goes on to a Phase 3 trial. These trials are open to large numbers of patients, and researchers use them to directly compare new treatments with standard treatments. This results in new standards for care. Finally, Phase 4 trials aim to further assess the long-term safety and effectiveness of a new treatment.